Welcome back, everyone, to another chapter in our special journey, a journey where we uncover the things you were never told about gemstones, and where every stone hides a story older than medicine, older than kingdoms, older than every belief we thought we understood. Today's exploration begins with something different, a warning and a mystery, because among these 10 healing stones, one, the stone ranked number one, has quietly reached a price that even expert collectors didn't anticipate. Some say it has doubled in value because of the emotional meaning people assign to it. Others whisper that it's now more sought after than certain types of sapphire. And a few claim that missing this stone today could become the biggest investment mistake they make in 2026. So whatever you do, don't skip this video if you're someone who cares about choosing the right gemstone, not just for beauty, but for the emotional support it represents in moments of crisis. Now, before we begin, let's set the tone for the next 10 minutes. Imagine a set of stones carried across deserts, tucked into burial chambers, hidden inside collapsed temples, and held tightly during nights when people feared they would not see the next sunrise. Each one shaped by ancient hands, each one linked to a human story older than history itself. And if you feel, even faintly, that this might be the beginning of something new, that this may be the first step into a part of gemstone history no one ever explained to you, then leave a comment saying, "I like this video. It tells me you're still walking beside me step by step in this unfolding journey." Make sure you stay until the very end, because the stone at number one might already be in your home, sitting forgotten in a drawer, or hidden inside a piece of jewelry you've never truly examined. And if that's the case, you may be holding a stone whose value, emotional and financial, is rising faster than anyone expected. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so. Not for the algorithm, but so you don't miss the next chapter in this path of discovery, where every episode reveals something new, something strange, something deeply human. And if you're busy right now, or you're watching this at a moment when you need quiet rather than information, then save this video. You'll want to return to it because what you're about to see is a journey through 10 stones that shaped entire civilizations, guided thousands through illness and crisis, and hold meanings we are only beginning to understand. Gemstone number 10, Malachite. The first time I uncovered malachite during an excavation on the edge of the Sahara, the stone didn't behave like a mineral at all. It looked like something alive, its surface swirling with green bands that curved and folded like the growth rings of an ancient tree. And in that moment, even after years of fieldwork, I felt something I rarely experience in archaeology, a sense that the earth itself was speaking, if that image already gives you a strange, almost magnetic feeling in these first few seconds. Feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here with me, walking deeper into a story that spans continents and civilizations. To understand why malachite stands as the 10th stone on this list, and why it's one you shouldn't overlook in times of illness or crisis, we need to go back thousands of years to the Copper Mountains of Central Africa, particularly the Katanga region of the Congo. Archaeologists found that ancient communities carved malachite into protective charms long before they understood the concept of mineralogy. These people believed the stone held the memory of Earth's transformations, because malachite forms where copper reacts with water and air, changing color as it absorbs the world around it. Later, in Egyptian tombs, malachite appeared again. Polished beads, carved amulets, and powdered pigments stored in small stone jars. The Egyptians viewed it as a symbol of transition, a stone to carry during moments when life felt unstable, frightening, or heavy. During illness, people often held malachite not as medicine, but as a reminder to let go of fear, anger, and emotional toxins. Archaeology shows us this clearly. The stone wasn't used for curing the body, but for steadying the heart. Its appearance alone explains part of its power. Malachite's color ranges from velvety emerald to deep forest green, with swirling patterns that look like they were carved by flowing water. Traditional healers believed these rings symbolize layers of pain being peeled away. One circle for fear, one for grief, one for confusion. That symbolism helped people stay grounded during difficult times, especially when the body was weak and the mind was shaken. The forms found in archaeological sites vary. Palm stones, smooth cabochons, pendants, and small polished carvings meant to be held close to the chest. These shapes weren't chosen by accident. They were designed for touch, because malachite's weight and coolness were believed to calm the nervous mind. If you didn't expect this stone to have such a deep cultural history, or if the idea that people carried it through wars, famine, and sickness surprised you, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to know your first impression. Before we close this chapter, here's a question to spark discussion. Do you think symbolic healing stones like malachite could gain more cultural value in 2026? Maybe even rivaling diamonds in meaning, if not in price? Share your thoughts, and feel free to post this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit to see how collectors and spiritual practitioners react. Because sometimes the stones we overlook are the ones with the oldest stories of all. Gemstone number 9, Labradorite. The first time I saw Labradorite reveal its inner light at a dig site in the far north, the entire landscape around me seemed to dim for a moment. The stone flashed with a sudden blue fire, sharp, cold, almost otherworldly, as if someone had trapped the northern lights inside a piece of mineral. And if that image already sends a strange chill through you in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, stepping with me into a world where geology and myth overlap in ways we still don't fully understand. To uncover the truth behind Labradorite, we must travel to Labrador, Canada, a land where ice, basalt, and ancient metamorphic rock meet the Arctic winds. Archaeologists working along the region's coastal cliffs have found fragments of Labradorite in early Inuit ceremonial sites, suggesting the stone was not merely decoration, but something carried intentionally during night hunts, storms, and times of deep uncertainty. The Inuit believed the stone held pieces of the aurora borealis, the northern lights, sealed inside it after a great celestial battle. Whether metaphor or myth, this belief shaped how people used Labradorite as an energy shield during exhaustion, illness, and spiritual disruption. It wasn't meant to heal the body directly, but to keep the spirit from collapsing when the body was at its weakest. When you turn Labradorite under a light source, it releases a burst of color called labradorescence: electric blues, icy greens, flashes of gold, and, in rare pieces, a deep violet shimmer. This phenomenon occurs because thin layers inside the mineral scatter light like mirrors stacked at microscopic angles. In ancient healing traditions, these shifting flashes symbolized awakening strength, especially when someone felt drained or overwhelmed. Archaeological evidence shows that Labradorite was often shaped into rounded talismans, flat palm stones, or pendants worn near the heart. These forms weren't chosen randomly. People believed touching the stone during moments of panic or pain could redirect energy, grounding the mind before fear took over. Whether or not the effect was physical, the psychological comfort it provided was powerful enough to survive thousands of years of storytelling. During long illnesses or personal crises, Labradorite was seen as a reminder that energy can return, just as the northern lights disappear, only to blaze across the sky again when conditions allow. This symbolism made the stone a companion for those who felt depleted, frightened, or stuck between uncertainty and hope. If the idea of a stone carrying the memory of the northern lights surprised you, or if you felt something the moment you pictured that first flash of blue fire, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. I'd love to know what struck you most. And before we move to the next healing stone, here's a question for you. Do you think symbolic gems with a living light like Labradorite could rise in value or cultural importance in 2026? Perhaps even rivaling diamonds in emotional meaning? Tell me your thoughts, and consider sharing this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. You'd be amazed how many collectors still overlook this Arctic-born mystery. Gemstone number 8. Bloodstone. The first time I encountered bloodstone in an archaeological trench on the coast of the Caspian Sea, I didn't recognize it immediately. What I saw was a deep green rock flecked with tiny crimson spots, like drops of paint frozen in midair. But when sunlight struck it directly, those red specks glimmered in a way I still struggle to describe. It felt less like mineral and more like memory, as though the stone itself remembered battles, rituals, and recoveries older than recorded history. If that first glimpse has already stirred your curiosity, feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here, walking deeper into this ancient landscape with me. To understand why Bloodstone earned a place on this list, we must journey back to ancient Mesopotamia, Persia, and early Roman settlements, where the stone appeared repeatedly in burial grounds, temples, and healing shrines. Archaeologists have found carved seals, protective amulets, and even small ceremonial blades made of bloodstone, objects carried not for combat, but for endurance. This alone tells us why it remained culturally important during sickness, fear, and crisis. Bloodstone forms in basalt and chalcedony-rich environments, often near volcanic rivers that once carried iron oxides downstream. These iron inclusions crystallized into crimson specks, the feature ancient healers believed represented life force, strength, or the spark of vitality. Of course, these interpretations belong to the symbolic world, not medicine, but in times of illness, symbolism can hold extraordinary psychological power. The stone's deep green body was associated with grounding, stability, and survival. During periods of plague, war, and personal crisis, people wore bloodstone close to the skin, usually carved into smooth talismans, thumb stones or oval pendants designed to be pressed tightly during fear or pain. Archaeological evidence shows clear signs of long-term wear on many pieces, meaning they were held often, perhaps during nights of weakness or moments of recovery. When rotated under natural light, the stone shows subtle shifts between forest green, dark teal, and the signature iron red spots. These colors gave bloodstone a meaning many still reference today: revival after exhaustion. It wasn't believed to heal the body directly. Instead, it reminded the spirit to rise, to breathe, to continue. Modern collectors and spiritual practitioners still turn to bloodstone during emotional or physical stress, not as treatment, but as a psychological anchor in moments when strength feels distant. If imagining this stone, carried by soldiers, travelers, healers, and the sick across millennia, surprised you, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what part resonated most. And before we move on to the next healing stone, here's a question to spark deeper discussion. Do you believe stones connected to ancient resilience, like bloodstone, could gain cultural relevance again in 2026, perhaps even outshining diamonds in symbolic value? Share your thoughts and consider posting this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. It's often the stones with the longest histories that spark the biggest conversations. Gemstone number 7, Lapis Lazuli. The first time I brushed away the dust from a Lapis Lazuli fragment inside a collapsed burial chamber near the ancient city of Ur, I felt an unexpected pause ripple through the entire excavation team. Beneath the soil lay a stone the color of midnight, but within that midnight, flecks of gold glimmered like stars. It didn't look natural, it looked celestial, as if it had fallen from the sky rather than formed in the earth. And if that image has already made you stop for a breath in these first seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, still following this quiet path through history with me. To understand why Lapis Lazuli remains one of the most respected healing stones in times of illness or crisis, we travel to Badakhshan, Afghanistan, home to the oldest known lapis mines on Earth. Archaeological records suggest these mines were active over 6,000 years ago, supplying ancient civilizations from Mesopotamia to Egypt and even early Greece. In every culture that touched it, lapis wasn't merely decoration. It was regarded as a stone of truth and clarity, carried during moments when the mind felt clouded and the future felt unresolved. In ancient medical temples, lapis lazuli was placed on the chests of the sick, not as medicine, but as a symbolic anchor to calm fear. It represented seeing clearly, seeing pain, illness, and confusion without letting them consume the inner world. This psychological, stabilizing effect appears repeatedly in archaeological findings. Amulets worn smooth from generations of touch, ritual bowls carved from deep blue stone, funerary masks painted with powdered lapis to guide the spirit into clarity in the afterlife. The stone's appearance is unmistakable. Deep royal blue, often veined with white calcite and sprinkled with natural pyrite that looks like constellations scattered across a night sky. Healers believe these golden flecks symbolize guidance, the sense that even in darkness, direction could be found. During times of illness, when the mind wanders through fear, regret, or uncertainty, this symbolism offered comfort older than any written language. Lapis lazuli is traditionally shaped into smooth ovals, amulets, or palm stones, designed for constant touching or holding close to the throat and chest. Some cultures carve the stone into small prayer beads, meant to guide slow breathing during moments of panic or weakness. If the idea that ancient healers valued clarity more than cure, and that a single blue stone could symbolize mental strength through crisis, surprised you, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which detail stayed with you. And before we continue this journey through the world's most symbolic healing stones, here's a question to ignite discussion. Do you think emotionally symbolic stones like lapis lazuli could become more culturally valuable in 2026, perhaps even surpassing diamonds in meaning? Share your perspective, and consider sharing this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. Stones with histories this long tend to spark conversations that travel far beyond the screen. Gemstone number 6. Jade. The first time I found a piece of ancient jade embedded in the corner of a collapsed ritual platform in southern China, I realized immediately why so many civilizations considered this stone more precious than gold. Even after thousands of years underground, its surface felt warm, almost alive, carrying a softness that stone shouldn't have. And if that first image already makes something inside you, pause in these opening seconds. Feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, walking deeper into this long, unbroken thread of human belief with me. To understand why jade holds such a powerful place among healing stones, especially in times of illness or crisis, we have to return to the earliest dynasties of East Asia. Archaeological excavations from the Hongshan culture, dated over 5,000 years old, revealed jade artifacts buried with people of high spiritual status. These weren't decorations. They were symbols of life, breath, and continuity. Ancient texts later described jade as the essence of heaven and earth, something believed to stabilize the body and protect the spirit when sickness threatened. In these ancient beliefs, jade wasn't expected to cure illness the way medicine would. Instead, it was held close to remind the body to stay balanced and the mind to remain calm. Archaeologists often found jade discs placed over the chest, jade beads wrapped around the wrists, and carved pendants worn smooth from years of being touched during moments of fear or weakness. These artifacts tell us one truth. People reached for jade when life felt fragile. The stone itself forms under extreme heat and pressure, compressing minerals into a structure that is incredibly tough, tougher than steel by weight. This durability is part of why many cultures link jade to longevity. If something this strong could come from the earth, then perhaps humans could hold on to strength too. Visually, jade offers a range of healing symbolism: soft apple green, calming the nervous mind; deep imperial green, representing vitality; milky white nephrite, symbolizing purity and renewal. Each shade carried a different meaning, helping people regain emotional grounding when the body was failing or fear was rising. Traditionally, jade was carved into discs, rings, small talismans, or worry stones. These forms were meant to rest against the skin, to be rubbed during pain or uncertainty, and many surviving archaeological pieces show exactly that. Polished edges from generations of anxious hands. If the idea that a single stone could carry thousands of years of symbolic healing, guiding both emperors and ordinary families through illness and crisis, surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know what part resonated most. And before we move to the next healing stone, here's a question for discussion. Do you think traditional stones like jade could rise again in 2026, perhaps even surpassing diamonds in cultural meaning and emotional value? Share your perspective. And consider posting this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit to see how others interpret jade's ancient legacy. Gemstone number 5. Selenite. The first time I found a selenite blade inside a collapsed ceremonial chamber in northern Anatolia, I remember how the sunlight hit the stone and seemed to travel through it rather than across it. It didn't shine, it glowed. A quiet inner radiance, like moonlight distilled into mineral form. And if that image already gives you a strange sense of stillness in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, stepping deeper with me into the quietest corner of ancient healing tradition. To understand why selenite holds such an important place in times of illness or crisis, we begin in the very landscape that named it. Selenite comes from Selene, the Greek goddess of the moon, a symbol of calm, cycles, and renewal. Archaeologists have uncovered selenite fragments in ancient temples across Anatolia, Mesopotamia, and the Levant, often placed in corners dedicated to purification rituals. In these cultures, selenite wasn't worn. It was kept close, positioned where people rested, healed, or sought clarity. Its origin is as symbolic as its use. Selenite forms in evaporated seabeds, places where water left behind minerals that slowly crystallized into long, translucent blades. In a way, the stone is a memory of oceans long vanished, a fossil of stillness. Ancient healers believed this gave selenite the ability to calm emotional storms, reduce fear, and bring a sense of mental clarity during times of physical weakness. Selenite has a unique property. It's one of the few minerals believed to energetically cleanse other stones. But archaeological records show something more interesting. Selenite was placed beside sleeping areas of the sick, not for physical treatment, but for energetic purification. People believed its pale glow formed a barrier that fear, nightmares, or emotional heaviness could not cross. When held in the hand, selenite feels silky and cool, with a texture unlike any other mineral. Its color ranges from milky white to pearl-like translucence, sometimes showing long, moonlit striations running through its length. These lines inspired ancient healers to call it the path stone, a reminder that even in illness there is a direction, and even in fear there is a center to return to. Selenite was traditionally carved into wands, flat palm stones, and gentle slabs meant to rest near the body. Archaeologists often find them near ritual water basins, hinting at purification practices that combined water, moonlight, and stone. If the quiet power of selenite, this mineral that seems to hold a piece of the moon, surprised you, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which part of its story resonated most. And before we continue this journey, here's a question to spark discussion. Do you think calming, symbolic stones like selenite will become more culturally important in 2026, perhaps even surpassing diamonds in emotional meaning? Share your perspective and consider sharing this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. You never know which stories will touch someone who needs them most. Gemstone number 4. Black Tourmaline. The first time I picked up a piece of black tourmaline from the floor of an abandoned ritual site in southern Ethiopia, I remember how unexpectedly heavy it felt. Not physically, but atmospherically. As if the stone carried centuries of fear, uncertainty, and survival within its dark, ridged surface. And if that feeling already makes something inside you tighten during these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, stepping with me into the deeper layers of this ancient, protective mineral. To understand why black tourmaline became one of the most relied upon healing stones in moments of illness or crisis, we must return to the highlands of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Madagascar, regions where this mineral appears in archaeological sites connected to early protective rites. Many of these sites contain black tourmaline fragments arranged around sleeping areas, thresholds, or ceremonial fire pits. These placements were intentional. Early cultures viewed the stone as a guardian, something that absorbed what the human heart could not bear. In ancient beliefs, especially among pastoral communities, sickness was seen as a moment when spirits, and vulnerabilities, were closest to the body. Archaeologists have found black tourmaline beads worn smooth around the edges, suggesting they were held frequently, likely during nights of fever, fear, or emotional collapse. The stone was never associated with curing the physical body, but with shielding the mind from spirals of panic that often worsened suffering black tourmaline forms in granite-rich and metamorphic environments, created deep underground as hot mineral-rich fluids cooled into vertical, column-like structures. Its natural striations, long grooves running down its length, made ancient healers believe the stone could pull down fear and negativity, drawing them out like water through reed symbolic. Yes, but symbolism has always played a critical role in human survival. Visually, black tourmaline looks solid, unwavering, jet black, absorbing light deep graphite, shimmering subtly under the sun-polished obsidian-like surfaces when shaped. These qualities made it the perfect symbolic shield. Even today, many carry it for grounding, especially during illness, grief, or emotional shock. Black tourmaline was traditionally carved into short columns, protective talismans, or pocket stones meant to be gripped tightly during distress. Archaeologists note that many ancient pieces show marks of constant thumb pressure, a sign they were used not as jewelry, but as anchors, something to hold on to when energy felt scattered or the body felt weak. If the story of this dark, unassuming stone, used by ancient cultures to stabilize the spirit in times of sickness, surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. I'd love to know what part of its journey spoke to you most. And before we move forward, here's a question to deepen the discussion. Do you think protective stones like black tourmaline could gain major cultural value in 2026, perhaps even surpassing diamonds in symbolic importance? Share your thoughts and consider posting this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. You never know who might find strength in these ancient stories. Gemstone number 3, rose quartz. The first time I uncovered a piece of rose quartz inside a collapsed shrine deep in the Anatolian countryside, I remember how strangely warm the stone felt in my hand. Not warm like sunlight, warm like a pulse. Its pale pink glow seemed almost out of place in a structure built of rough stone and weathered bones. And if that unexpected softness already caught your attention in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here with me, stepping deeper into this long, tender history of emotional survival. To understand why rose quartz holds such an important place on this list, especially during illness or crisis, we have to return to the earliest Neolithic settlements of Anatolia, and the Near East archaeologists have found rose quartz beads in burial sites over 9,000 years old, often placed near the heart or in the palms of the deceased. These placements weren't random. They suggest that ancient communities viewed this stone as a vessel for emotional release, something to ease fear, sorrow, or the silent grief that often accompanied sickness. In ancient Egyptian healing temples, rose quartz powder was applied to the skin as part of rituals meant to cool the spirit when the body was in pain. In Greek mythology, the stone was said to originate from a moment of heartbreak between Aphrodite and Adonis, giving rose quartz a symbolic connection to compassion, forgiveness, and emotional rebirth. And across early Asian traditions, the stone appeared in amulets carried during periods of stress, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. Rose quartz forms in silica-rich environments, slowly crystallizing inside cooling magma chambers. Its pink color comes from microscopic mineral fibers that scatter light, creating the soft glow that made ancient healers see it as a stone of emotional comfort. The shade ranges from milky blush to deep rose, with the gentlest colors often being the most valued in healing traditions. Unlike other stones used for protection or grounding, rose quartz was almost always shaped into smooth, rounded forms. Palm stones, beads, heart-shaped pendants, or small carved talismans meant to rest directly over the chest. These shapes were created with intention, something to hold during fear, something to press against the chest when breathing became difficult, something to remind the heart that it was still capable of softening, even during illness. Archaeological evidence shows that many rose quartz pieces were polished smooth by constant touch. This tells us more than words can. People held these stones during sleepless nights, uncertain mornings, and moments of physical vulnerability. Rose quartz didn't heal the body, but it soothed the mind, and sometimes that was enough to help someone endure. If the idea that a stone this gentle carried the emotional weight of entire civilization surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which part of its story stayed with you. And before we move forward, here's a question to spark deeper discussion. Do you think stones associated with emotional healing, like rose quartz, could become more culturally important in 2026, maybe even surpassing diamonds in symbolic value? Share your thoughts, and consider sharing this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. You never know who might need a moment of calm woven into stone. Gemstone number 2, clear quartz. The first time I discovered a clear quartz point protruding from the floor of a forgotten cave shrine near the Zagros Mountains, I felt a moment of silence so heavy it erased the sound of the wind outside. The crystal didn't look buried. It looked placed, deliberately, reverently. Its surface, even beneath centuries of dust, still caught the faintest light and fractured it into subtle rainbows. And if that image already pulls you into something ancient in these first few seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still with me, stepping deeper into this long, invisible thread of human belief. To understand why clear quartz became one of the most universally honored healing stones in times of illness or crisis, we have to look across multiple ancient cultures because this is one of the very few stones that appears in nearly all of them. From the ceremonial fires of ancient Persia, to the burial mass of Egypt, to the healing bowls found in early Tibetan monasteries, clear quartz was treated not as a gemstone, but as a conduit, a bridge between the physical and emotional world. Archaeological findings show something remarkable. Clear quartz was often placed beside the sick, not to cure them, but to amplify strength, focus, and mental clarity during hardship. In early Greek healing practices, quartz spheres were set near patients as clarifiers, intended to help them remain calm through pain. In the highlands of Central Asia, explorers discovered talismans carved from clear quartz, worn smooth by generations of anxious hands. Proof that people turned to its symbolic clarity during moments when their own minds felt clouded. Quartz forms in hydrothermal veins, growing slowly as mineral-rich water cools deep underground. These conditions create its famous transparency, a quality that ancient healers interpreted as purity of intention. Many believed that the clearer the crystal, the more effectively it could reflect away fear or overwhelm. And whether symbolic or psychological, that belief helped countless individuals navigate moments of vulnerability. Its appearance is unmistakable. Perfectly clear points like frozen drops of water. Archaeologists have even discovered clear quartz rods, placed in ritual spaces dedicated to purification of thought. That alone tells us how deeply people relied on this stone, not for the body, but for the mind, especially when illness blurred the boundary between fear and reality. If the history of clear quartz, stretching across continents, cultures, and millennia, surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. I'd love to know what part of its story you connected with most. And before we move to the final stone on this healing journey, here's a question to spark deeper discussion. Do you think ancient clarity stones like clear quartz could rise again in 2026, perhaps even surpassing diamonds in symbolic importance? Share your thoughts, and consider posting this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. You might be surprised how many people still carry a piece of quartz without knowing why. Gemstone number 1, amethyst. The first time I found an amethyst fragment inside a collapsed temple alcove near ancient Phrygia, the purple glow caught me so off guard that I thought it was a trick of the torchlight. Even under layers of ash and soil, the color was unmistakable. Deep violet melting into soft lavender, a hue so calming it felt like the stone was exhaling. And if that image already makes something inside you soften in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, still connected to this final chapter of our healing journey. To understand why amethyst stands as the number 1 stone you shouldn't overlook in times of illness or crisis, we have to go back thousands of years to ancient Greece and the Near East, where this stone first appeared in spiritual sanctuaries. Archaeologists have uncovered amethyst talismans placed near the beds of the sick. Polished rings worn smooth by nights of fear and prayer, and ceremonial bowls carved from deep violet quartz used to clear the mind of shadows before healing rites. Unlike many stones tied to physical survival, amethyst was tied to the inner world. The storms of fear, confusion, and emotional collapse that often strike when the body is weakest. Ancient healers believed that amethyst helped calm the mind long enough for clarity to enter, stabilizing thoughts in moments when panic could worsen suffering. Whether symbolic or psychological, artifacts from multiple regions show one thing clearly. When the world felt overwhelming, people reached for amethyst. The stone forms in geodes and volcanic cavities, growing in pointed clusters like mineral cathedrals. Its purple color comes from trace amounts of iron exposed to natural radiation deep within the earth, a transformation ancient cultures interpreted as pain becoming wisdom. This belief made amethyst the stone people turned to when they needed emotional strength more than anything else. Amethyst's appearance is a spectrum of healing symbolism. Soft lilac, associated with peace medium lavender, linked to balanced deep royal purple, tied to spiritual clarity. These shades made the stone ideal for meditation, grounding, and emotional stabilization during illness. Archaeological digs reveal that amethyst objects were shaped into smooth palm stones, teardrop pendants, prayer beads, and small carved figures meant to be held close to the chest. Some artifacts bear fingerprints worn into their surfaces, proof that people clutched them in moments of confusion, fear, or sleepless nights. If the idea that this violet stone accompanied humanity through thousands of years of inner struggle surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. I'd love to know what part of its story resonated with you most. And before we close this chapter, here's a question for you. Do you think stones tied to emotional clarity, like amethyst, could become even more culturally important in 2026? Perhaps surpassing diamonds in symbolic value? Share your thoughts and consider posting this video in gemstone groups on Facebook or Reddit. You never know who might find comfort in a story carried through violet stone. And that brings us to the end of today's journey. If you've read this far, thank you. You're the reason I continue to dig into the stories buried underground. The stones that people believed could keep them alive, sane, or at peace during the most difficult times in history. If you found this journey meaningful, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel so I have more motivation to continue creating new episodes. Each one takes hours of research and reenacts mysteries forgotten by time. And if you thought today's journey was extraordinary, get ready for the next one. We'll be following the stones that appeared in ancient rituals, stones that were said to have the ability to open the door between two worlds, and that once caused expeditions to disappear without a trace. Not for the faint of heart, but for those who love to explore the untold. Thanks for sticking around until the end. See you in the next chapter of the mysterious gem hunt, where every stone is a door, and not every door should be opened.